Today, we are deconstructing the absolutely sprawling and, frankly, bizarre digital ecosystem of a website called Evelust World. It's a deep dive into a world with its own science, its own rules, and some claims that are, well, you'll see. So it all kicks off with instructions like this one. I mean, imagine you just stumble upon this online. It looks exactly like a set of computer commands, right? But the whole idea here is that this isn't for your computer, it's for your body. And as you dig in, the language gets even weirder. It's this wild mix of what looks like programming syntax. You've got create and .start, and something that sounds almost like a digital prayer for living forever. Okay, so this immediately begs a huge question. What exactly is this system, and what in the world is it claiming it can do? Let's try to unpack its most fundamental promise. It turns out this code is being sold as the key to some pretty incredible things. But it all starts with the absolute biggest promise of all, the end of death itself. So at the heart of all this is something they call AGT, which stands for Advanced Genetic Synthesis Technology. The core claim is that we're all born with a death line, like a built-in expiration date. And this technology, they say, can just remove it, poof, giving you a massively extended life. And they get very specific with the numbers. The claim is that if you buy books for just £28, you can get something called 8,000 AGT, which supposedly adds 800 years to your life. Just like that. And yep, this tech comes with a price tag. But what's really fascinating is this tiered system they've set up. $1 million for billionaires, $100 grand for millionaires, but just $100 for, as they put it, ordinary people. So who is the architect of this whole universe? I mean, who is making these absolutely mind-bending claims? Let's pull back the curtain. Well, the creator's name is David Gamadza, and this extraordinary quote is attributed directly to him. You can see it's a claim that rockets right past scientific discovery and straight into the divine. And his personal claims are just as unique. Here he's saying he's received 2 trillion deaths. But get this, he reframes them as his assets. It's a complete flip on what death even means. Okay, so we've got the what and the who. But now we get to the how. And the source material actually tries to explain it, laying out its own kind of pseudoscientific framework called the countermeasure matrix. The whole system is framed as this big battle against something called a cancer root. And as you can see, this thing supposedly asks these really cryptic questions. The answer comes from 4 root disruptors. And look at those names. They sound both super technical and almost mystical at the same time, which is a perfect example of this system's weird language. One of the key ideas here is the love-think protocol. The concept they're putting forward is that your heart has its own little nervous system. They call it a little brain with 40,000 neurons that can actually take over if your main brain is compromised. It then uses the vagus nerve to get everything back online. Now, here's where things get really interesting, because the ambition of this whole project just explodes. It goes way beyond personal health and becomes the foundation for a whole new global system. The plan is literally called Tomorrow's World Order, and as you can see from this list, the goal is to control pretty much every single major part of human life. Politics, money, religion, defense, you name it. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea on a web page. It's a real digital empire. There is an entire network of websites, and each one is dedicated to a specific piece of this new world order they want to build. So after all of this big picture theory and world building, what is a person who buys into this actually supposed to do? Well, the source material gives very, very specific instructions. Okay, the very first step is what they call the initial activation. You're told to copy that long string of code we saw earlier, paste it into your smartphone's notepad, and then, and this is key, perform this exact sequence of commands. Cut, copy, paste, enter, save, seal. All right, so you've done it. You've received the AGT. Now what? The system actually provides a way to check if it worked, but how on earth do you find out your new date of death? The answer is remarkably simple. The instruction is to just say, day, out loud. The claim is that this one word will tell you both your old and your brand new day of death. And there's a whole bunch of other verbal commands and physical rituals too. Things like facing a clock at a very specific time to say a command, asking for utilities, or even instructions that are just one long word for how to celebrate your new cancer-free life. So when you really step back and look at it, What we've seen is this incredible journey. It all starts with one single cryptic command: remove cancer. And then it just spirals out into this complete self-contained universe with its own creator, its own science, and a very clear rule book for anyone who joins. It presents itself as a cure for death, a medical revolution built on code. But when you look at its structure with a central, almost prophetic figure, a totally unique cosmology, and a list of prescribed daily rituals, it really does leave you with one last big provocative question. What are we really looking at here?